Hey viewers, happy Valentine's Day. My name's Kara. I'm your host for Tuesdays here on the Pagan Perspective, and this week we're talking about psychic vampires, but this morning the weather in Northeast Ohio is so unseasonably nice that I am harvesting some of my herbs and harvesting, finally, the Christmas tree pine needles from my tree. Just wanted to give you a little update about what I'm doing because it's such a nice day out. So I'm actually outside just wearing a little cardigan. I have the door open to get some fresh air in here, and I'm harvesting and drying some herbs today. So it's just a really nice day. Happy Valentine's Day. If you want to read up on the history of St. Valentine's Day, it has an interesting history that not everyone knows about, so I'll put a link in the description to that. Anyway, this week we are talking about psychic vampires in the pagan community. This week's topic comes from Devin, who is a psychic vampire and kind of feels like, the way they put it is, they feel like a fox in the hen house because the pagan community so often warns people against psychic vampires and things like that, and so they kind of feel unwelcome and wanted to hear us talk about that. So Devin, I have to say, when I read this topic, I felt really bad because I know psychic vampires, and it never even occurred to me that this is the reaction that you have, because honestly, and I realized this after, getting this topic and reading it and realizing that that is the point of view, I realized that I don't think of my friends who are Psi Vamps as in like energy vampires, people who cannot sustain their own energy enough and need to get it from outside sources. I don't think of them as the same thing as what people are talking about in the pagan community when we warn against psychic vampires, as in just people who really drain your life and who aren't adding a lot to it. And it occurs to me that they might be talking about the same people, but I never even thought of it that way, because I just view them differently. Like, there are people in the world who I've met who I think of as psychic vampires, as in the energy drain people that you should stay away from because they just want to take and take and take and they never give anything back. And those people tend to be the kinds of people who take advantage of your time and energy, who just constantly are a downer and want you to, they kind of drag you down with them. Those people aren't necessarily literally energy or sanguine vampires, as in an actual need that they have physically or energetically. It's just kind of a nickname for people who are really draining and take and take and take and never give anything back to the relationship. Whereas Psi Vamps and Sang Vamps and all that kind of thing, that's something that is an actual need. It's part of someone's life. It's part of your body, part of your energy body. I don't really know how to explain it super well. I did a lot of research on it in high school, and I have some old videos about that on my personal channel. They're from years ago, and I haven't really done any more specific research. I haven't gotten in depth into the community, but I have friends who are in the community, so I just kind of feel like whenever I need to talk about it, I talk to them because they have the inside scoop, right? So I don't know a whole lot about the nuances anymore. Not that I ever did. The research that I did in high school was probably not that in-depth. I just think of them as totally different things. Like, my friends who are Psi Vamps are not huge sucks of fun. Like, they're not draining your life literally. They're people who need a different way to balance their energy levels. And they're really good about it, as people in the vampire community are. They tend to be very open about communicating about it and do it as ethically as possible. There are cases where maybe they're not aware that they're doing it yet, and so they have to learn to control it. The people that I know are pretty good about controlling it and or communicating about it and making sure that people know what's going on. So I have a friend who is very open with me about the times that they're feeling very low on energy, and they warn me when we're going to hang out so that I can shield, so that they don't accidentally take too much energy from me. And then I have friends who are like energy powerhouses who are totally willing to give some extra energy to that person. So it's much more of like an open communication, honest exchange. Whereas the people with the psychic vampire nickname, who I think are really the people that we're warning people about, they're not literally Psi Vamps, they're not literally within the vampire community. It's just kind of a stupid nickname for people who take so much from your life. And so now I'm realizing that since there are actually, the vampire subculture is an actual thing, I'm realizing that if we don't mean you guys, that's not a good nickname for us to be using because it is very unclear. So I would love to know from people in the comments if you've heard this phrase being used, you've heard people be warned about psychic vampires and stuff. Did you think it was just kind of a nickname for someone who drains your energy, like a mythological vampire drains blood from a person and drains their life force? Or are you aware that there is a vampire subculture with real people, and did you think that that's who they were talking about? Because this is a very important point to bring up, right? We want to be clear about our language. We don't want to be saying something, meaning it just as like a nicknamey type thing, when there really is a subculture of people who identify by that word, and we could be really getting things confused, or either being confused about who they are and what they actually are and what they actually do, or kind of shunning them in a way because of that language. So yeah, Devin, I am aware of this issue. There are people in my life who experience this, and I honestly never really thought of them as the same people. That's not saying that actual Psi Vamps can't also be that really huge downer on your life, energy suck type of person. These things can definitely overlap. That's just kind of a quality that anyone is capable of having, no matter who you are, vampire or not, pagan or not. Anyone is capable of being that energy sucking type person who just drains your life, figuratively, not literally. So yeah, so I think this is a really great thing to bring up. Thank you for asking this question. I'm sorry that it has led to you feeling really unwelcome, and I'm glad that you brought up the discussion because this is a really important conversation to have, I think, things like this. So thank you. I'm sorry that I can't say too much more about it. Those are my initial thoughts, is that I kind of thought of them as different groups. There can be overlap, but maybe we need to adjust our language so that we're really being clear about who we're talking about. So I hope that gives you some food for thought this week, and I will see you next week. Until then, don't forget to be awesome, blessed be, and goodbye.